As-Salamu Alaikum. Allah Akbar. La hawla wa la quwwata illa Allah Akbar. Alhamdulillah. Ayah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Ahmaduhu wa asta'inuhu wa astadihi wa astaghfiruhu wa umminu bihi jalla wa ala wa la akfiruhu wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Arsalahu bil huda wa din al haq liyadhhiruhu ala din kullihi wallahu karihal mushrikun. All praise belongs to Allah. We praise Him, we seek His help, His assistance, and His guidance. We believe in Him and do not disbelieve in Him. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His servant and messenger. Allah sent him, that is Muhammad, with Deen al-Haq, the religion, the way, the methodology of truth. And this way of life known as Islam will rise to its proper position in this world, whether the mushriks like it or not. Amma ba'd fa inna asdiqal hadith kitabullah wa awtaqa al-ura kalimatu taqwa wa khayrul milali milatu Ibrahim wa khayrul sunani sunatu Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam wa ashraful hadith dhikrullah wa asanu al-kasasi hadha al-Quran wa khayrul umuri awazzimuha wa shayrul umuri muhtatatuha wa asanu al-hadyu hadyu al-anbiya wa ashraful maut katlu shuhada wa amma al-amma dalalatul ba'da al-huda wa khayrul ammali ma nafa'a wa khayrul hadi ma utba'a wa shayrul amma ammal kalb. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said the most truthful of discourses is Kitabullah, or the Book of Allah. The most trustworthy word is taqwa, or fear of Allah. The best of the community is the community of Prophet Ibrahim. The best way of life is the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The remembrance of Allah is the most glorious of all things. The best of all narrations is Quran. The best acts are those requiring the highest degree of will and determination. The worst acts are those based on innovation. The best way of life is the one adopted by the prophets of Allah. The most glorious death is the death of the martyr. The most wretched blindness consists of going astray after finding the right way. The best acts are the ones that yield benefits. The best guidance is that which people may be able to follow. The worst blindness is the blindness of the heart. Aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Ahmaduhu wa asta'inuhu wa astadihi wa astakfiruhu wa umminu bihi jalla wa ala wa la akfuruhu wa ashhadu wa la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Dear believers, I'd like to start with one of the old renditions of one of the surahs, but I'd like to give a kind of a biblical slant to it. And this one of the old CDs was called Goliath and His Forces. Goliath and His Forces. And we know the story of David and Goliath. All of us know that. But in this case, it was some additional biblical discussion. And it said that that when David was going to meet Goliath, they had Saul there, and Saul was a king. Saul was a big, strong brother, you know what I mean? So when they finally selected Daoud to go against Jalut, this guy was so big he had 6 fingers and 6 toes. He was so bad. And so when he was getting ready to go up against him, they put Saul's armor on him. Remember I said this is the biblical rendition. And Saul was big, and David, he was a shepherd. Maybe he weighed 100 pounds. And so they put Saul's armor on him, and it was dragging the ground. He couldn't hardly walk. So he said, I'm taking this off. And so David took the thing that he was used to. Remember, he's a shepherd. So he's out there. In those days in the Middle East, they had lions and they had all kind of attackers to attack the sheep. And he was a shepherd. So his weapon was a slingshot. And so if he saw a lion coming at the lambs, he just bam. And he got good with it. He was good. He was, like any young boy that do that stuff. He was dynamite. And he could get rid of them boys. Okay, so they want him to go up against Saul. To go up against Jalut. And so he took the armor off that they put on him, and he decided, I will use those things that I'm familiar with. And that's a sling. So he went to the spring or to the river, and he took 5 smooth stones that you know how the water runs over. Well, in the old days y'all would know, but water runs over the rocks and make them smooth. So he chose 5 smooth stones. These stones had to be aerodynamically correct, that when he loaded them in his sling, right, he'd know how they're going to sail. This is going to make his aim more specific. And when he came up against the giant was covered from head to toe. But there was one spot that wasn't covered. It was right there, right? Yeah, he was covered from head to toe. He got all kind of armor. And everybody else, when they looked at Jalut, they said, man, this guy's too big to hit. He's just too big. The guy is too big. He's covered with everything. How are we going to deal with him? Daoud had a different vision of it. He said, man, this guy is too big to miss. Can't miss him. He's too big. That's his. Now remember, this is little Daoud. And the other big army of people got a vision. And they looking at the monster, and they saying, man, we can't hit that boy. He too tough. He too big. That was their attitude. So they were already defeated. They had a defeatist mentality. So we can't go up against that monster. He's too well defended. He's too big. You just can't find a position to hit him at. You can't drag him into nothing. He's too well fortified. If you can shoot a block, he can shoot a mile. Right? If you got a 5-pound bomb, he's got a 200-pound bomb. Right? So you can't do nothing with him. So David looked at him. He said, man, I can't miss this joker. So he took 5 smooth stones from the brook, from the stream. Now, in the old days, actually the chief was the one that brought this out. So he said those 5 smooth stones, each one of them stood for one of the principles of Islam. You know, stones, tablets, you know. So, as the chief was saying, he took those 5 smooth stones from the brook and put them in his bag. And when he came up against Goliath, all he did was hit him right here in the forehead with one of those stones. Now the chief said that stone stood for La ilaha illallah. There's no God but Allah. And he hit him in the head with that, and he fell down. When he fell down dazed and discombobulated, then David took his sword, and cut his head off with his own sword. Okay, now, when we see that story, suppose we're going to structure a strategy based on those type of stories. That we're going to base for ourselves a strategy based on those stories. And we might have things like how to punk the FBI, you know what I mean, and all that kind of stuff. And these are psychological. Remember, he hit him in the head. He broke the psychological hold that he had over the people. The people was, they wouldn't try to fight because they just said, I can't, where are we going to hit him? They was thinking in traditional methods of fighting. David wasn't. David said, now, what do I use all the time? What am I good at? What do I have, right, to fight with? Not a sword. The sword was so big he couldn't carry it. The armor was so heavy he couldn't walk. It's Saul's armor, right? So he said, I haven't proved this stuff. In other words, I haven't used this stuff before. So David used the things that he was accustomed to. He used the things that he was used to. And when he looked at him, he said, this guy is too big to miss. Everybody else said, now when you look at it, you think if there's this big giant, you can't miss him. But everybody else is looking at the giant and they're looking at his armor. They're looking at his size. They're looking at his physical reach. They're looking at when you're looking at Boss Man, you're looking at tanks and atomic bombs and all of that stuff. And tattletales by the millions. By the millions. Right? So the average person, when they look at all of that, they're saying, man, you can't do nothing with Boss Man. And do you know that there are technically thousands of our people, good leaders with ability, capability, have went and sat down and had a seat, and along with the choir, and some sitting in the masjid right now. They took a seat. Why? Because they're looking at everything Boss Man got, right? Therefore, when they look at Boss Man, they see somebody that cannot be beaten. But Boss Man not only can be beaten, but he can be degraded step by step. He can be immobilized where he can't use what he got. And when he uses what he got, it'll reflect back off of him and bounce off of me and you back to him. Yeah, boss, you got to look. You cannot fight nobody on their strong side. If you got any sense, all of our people in history, well, they always fought boss man, wearing boss man's uniform, with boss man's attitude and boss man's weapons. That's why we always lost. On the other hand, you won't be able to deny that right here, now, okay, so we've been here in D.C. 30-something years. Our community is over 40 years old now. Over 40 years old. And all of the old-time warriors, Dar al-Islam movement, Islamic Party, and all those have gone. Long since gone. They like 30 years gone and all that. Because they had an attitude. And all the other militant groups, our friends, like the Black Panther Party and all of those, have long since disappeared. Why did they go so fast? I tell you, once my son was in the jail, and Huey Newton was in the jail too. Huey Newton was in there, in the bullpen when y'all first coming in. And the brother that was with him, he say, that's little Hank over there. So they called, this is my son. They called this a long time ago when he was alive, of course. So they called him over, and so he said, this is what he telling me. I wasn't there. He said, yeah, they called me over. And Huey said, you so-and-so? He said, yes. He said, we want to tell your father we want to thank him for all the things he did for us. Just talking about the Black Panther Party. Because, see, only a select people knew. Remember, if you're a financier a lot, if you're backing up, I said, he told you that? I said, that's all right. That's something. Because he wasn't in Algeria, right, where this was going on, but he was in Oakland, where the Black Panther office in East Oakland was right there on 73rd Avenue, right in front of next to the pawn shop. And our biggest house was right through the alley. It's not an alley anymore. And in the back. And you could go out of the back window of our place and into the back window of the Panther Party office. You know what I mean, if you wanted to. But anyway, so he said, tell your father we want to thank him for all the work that he did for us. Talking about the Black Panther Party. Now, nobody hardly knows about none of this because if you knew about it, you'd be off to jail, off to the poorhouse somewhere. Boss man ain't going to put up with that. Okay. If you look in Chicago, they just showed this new film out about the Judas something or other, right? And it's about Fred Hampton, about Chairman Fred. Chairman Fred was a great revolutionary. He and smart. He was young, but boy, was he smart. What was his first thing that was biggest from him? He was revolutionizing or developing the white boys. In Chicago, the other white crews, maybe they don't show it much, but that's what he was specializing in. The Rainbow Coalition idea was not from Jesse Jackson. That's a few years later. Everything that Dr. King was going to do in Chicago, here come old Uncle Jesse running behind him. If Dr. King got killed with the bloody shirt, here come old Uncle Jesse, right, with the bloody shirt. So Jesse Jackson, think about it. Now remember, Rainbow Coalition. Where do you hear about that? You ever heard it from Chairman Fred? No. You heard it from old Uncle Jesse. Right? He stole the idea. He was a professional thief, burglar and robber. He stole that from Chairman Fred. Why did they set up to kill him so quickly? Because he was unifying poor whites that had more in common with blacks than anybody else. So he said, why should we be fighting with y'all? Y'all poor as we are. You know, you hillbillies, you know them Appalachian white folks, you think niggas is poor down the street? Go up in them hillbillies. Some of them are still up there. Right now, poorer than you've ever been. They are like that now. Imagine then. Right? So, Chairman Fred was saying that why would we fight against them? They're in worse shape than we are. Or we equal in poverty, right? And you've heard of white trash. White folks has got money, now they call them trailer trash. You know who they hate worse than niggas? Trailer trash. You know why? They said, you white. Years ago, white folks wouldn't give other white folks money that was out there begging. They'd give it to niggas. You know why? You go back 20, 30 years, they say, you white. They was thinking in their mind, you white. What the heck you doing out here begging? Right? You're white. Use that whiteness, stupid. You laying out here, you're worse than a nigga. A nigga got a reason to be out here begging. Because we ain't giving him, they already, since they white, they know what they giving up. We ain't giving, it's a wonder the Negro is still alive, as much as we cutting off, right? He may be up in the big institutions that he know they're cutting off how they doing it and everything. And they say ain't nobody cutting nothing off to you, cracker. And you out here begging. The nigga, that's for niggas. Okay. Rainbow Coalition. Rainbow Coalition comes out to be old Uncle Jesse and them. Then they have other Negroes that now are on TV and have different positions. They're also hustlers. Reagan called them civil rights hustlers. And that's the only thing he said right that I can remember. It was not only Jesse Jackson, but now you got old Uncle Al. Old Uncle Al, right? Oh, he jumping on there just like old Jesse used to. Oh, don't go get Jesse on us. This is white folks. And they go get Jesse run in there, the Coca-Cola and some of them. Well, if y'all want me to stop this thing, y'all gonna have to give me, let's see, 3-4 million. That'll hold me for a while. Then I'll take care of this for you. And he'll come up, take hope out of your veins and put hope in your brains, all that stuff. You know, he was rhyming. He was rhyming and getting money. Right? That was his job. When he come on, he played his association with Dr. King into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. Till in 84 and 88, he's going to run for president. But he wasn't going to cause no ruckus, right? But he got all us involved. And the people in Oakland, the revolutionary movement's talking about, well, I guess we got to go along with it. So I ain't going along with it. Run, Jesse, run. You can run with him. I ain't running with him. I don't even believe in vote. I mean, of course, everybody else can. So you think I'm going to vote? Run, Jesse, run. So, right? Y'all remember that? Some of you do. That's a long time ago, 84. 88, the same thing. What do they give him? They give him 10 minutes to talk at the Democratic Convention, finished. That was his job in 84 and in 88. Bring all the Negroes to the election station for them to vote for the Democrats. You can't get me for president this time, but you can vote for so-and-so, whoever they got running, right? And then they grow. It's all a big hustle, right? See, this time, they got a Negro woman that's sitting aside with. That Negro woman was the police. She was a prosecutor. See, I say it again? Prosecutor in California. Then she was the attorney general. I had paperwork, got Camel or whatever it is. She was a civil rights, her mama, that don't add up. Do you know what that girl was going to do for California? All the kids that didn't go to school, like 16 or 17, what was she going to do with them? Y'all remember? Anybody? What? Put them in jail, the parents. Now you see Mamala, Kamala, whatever the name is, boy, right? I'm over there. Anyway, can you see that there's one set of coons after another? They have historical coons. Historical coons coming in line, prepared to lead us astray. Okay, let's go on for a minute. Eid Mubarak, now this is just Major Nadal Hassan, Imam Luqman. Then we got Obama over here. I'm just going to read this brother here was a major psychological, a medical doctor for the government. He handled, or they fed a lot of the troops from Iraq through him. So this says, victimize, human target of modern science fiction style psychological warfare. Well, what did they do to him? He's a nice guy. So all the soldiers who was coming back from Iraq that had a little psychological stuff going on, they fed the worst ones through him. And imagine what he's hearing. Yes, I stuck my gun in this Arab woman's vagina and blew her head off. That's what they're telling him. How long can he take that, right? He's a Muslim, right? He's a Muslim. They're Muslims. And these crimes would be horrendous. It don't make no difference who did it, right? That type of stuff. That's what they was doing in Iraq. 2003, 4, 5, all that period, that's what they was doing. They was sending all of the worst cases, he's a psychiatrist, to him. That's why I say he was set up by the government. The government knew what they was doing, sending all those people through him. He's a Muslim. If he was a Christian or a Jew, you couldn't take but so much of that, right? Without going crazy yourself, or without thinking this is the most horrible so-called war in history, and we're the victim of it. So he was victimized by it. Modern psychological warfare, you can say they didn't know what they was doing. Well, they was reading his emails and everything, and he was talking with they knew who they was feeding with, and they could study his progress or regress. Progress to where they want him to go off. No, they don't care about him shooting up some white folks or Negroes down there on base. You think they care? If they cared, they wouldn't send them over to Iraq to get blowed up. You ever seen the machines going down the street? They had the white folks driving at almost 100 miles an hour. You know why? So them roadside bombs wouldn't blow them up. Just watch some of the TV. So we're talking about a type of warfare and combat. We're not talking about we're not in an accidental situation. So like David, if we're smart, we will use the forces that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us. And we're here today over 40 years because we had a chance to study. I want you to try to visualize the type of vocabulary we always use. Psychological guerrilla warfare, not physical guerrilla warfare, right? Terminology like discombobulate, disorganize, disrupt, right? The system in which we're dealing with. This is a language we've used. This is a language, the practice that we follow. Psychological guerrilla warfare is that we have studied warfare all the time. It's like in the movie, it is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Sometimes one get away. You have to figure out who it was. If one from all of those times and all those battles and all those wars survive, you have to think, why me? All the rest of the niggas is in prison in Louisiana. They let one brother out after 42 years. You know when he died? Anybody know? When? The next day, right? They got to be monitoring him down in Louisiana. Ex-Black Panther, right? They got to be monitored. They got tubes on. They got counters. They counting up the heartbeats is left. He may not have it. And they let him out the day before he died. You're talking about a grotesque, unnatural, inhumane system of government and management. That's what we got right here in America. And you know they got people down there checking their name off, voting to bring in somebody better, like Kamala Harris. I'm from California. This lady is a butcher and a dictator. She put more niggas in the penitentiary. She's a prosecutor. That was her job. So she done already proved that you put me up there, boss man, I got it covered. You put me in number 2. She already sent it. You put me in number 2, and then you let the old boy run for one time, and if he lasts, if he don't, who cares, right? If he don't last, right? Then you run me. I'll take care of them niggas for you. If there's any of them left when you put me in charge, you just wait and see. I'll show you. That has to be the promise. They don't give no positions out to nobody unless they swear that oath. You haven't seen nobody. You haven't even heard of nobody that they're going to allow to get in that position unless they guarantee, boss man. They sign in blood. I'll take care of them niggas, boss man. Who else? You got Mexicans running. Don't you worry about them. Don't you worry about them. Our most deadly enemies have always been from the inside, right? Just like all the, what is this, the one that's O'Neill. He gave the police a diagram of the place and all kind of everything you needed for that. And then they had a little Seconal in his orange juice or something. You know what Seconal is? It's Reds. And all of a sudden, we used to call Seconal, we used to call them Reds. They was fender benders. You know why? These popular in L.A. for 70 years almost. Way, not that long, but 60 years. Because everybody in the penitentiary, when I was a little kiddie jail, they was always talking about Reds. You know, red, that's the color of the capsule. And that was Seconal. They call them fender benders because you driving down the street and you nod over and you knock over somebody's fender all the time. That's why they call them fender benders, because it was a sleeping pill, strong sleeping pill. Here's what I'm trying to tell you. Let me just read about this. We at Masjid al-Islam charge the Zionist American government with high crimes and treason, spreading mischief across the earth and bringing death and destruction to the environment and to human, plant, and animal life. Now, this is an old flyer, but this is what we charge Boss Man of. Okay. Help us. We are raising money for all the oppressed individuals mentioned above. Everybody mentioned up here. We don't have Imam Jamil's picture, but we have old Obama's picture here. You know what we call Obama? Positioned as the first Afro-Zionist president. Now, you think I made that up. No, I wasn't. I was giving a speech. Dr. Algar was coordinating the program at UC Berkeley some years ago. And in his talk, he said Obama was the first Afro-Zionist president. Well, he ain't going to say it, but once or twice here and there. So I said, that's perfect. Now, Dr. Algar is a white man. You know, in fact, he's from over there in England. He's been here for America for tons of years. Big Islamic scholar up there at Berkeley. He done retired 20, 30 years ago. Anyway, positioned as the first Afro-Zionist president, also known as Bush III, also known as Judas Goat. Now, y'all know what a Judas goat is, right? Judas goat is a goat that has a little bell on him or something. He goes around and collects all the other goats, and then he bring them into a pen. And there's a trap door down at the end that he knows he's a Judas goat. And all the other goats that he brought there for slaughter, he goes on out the other gate, go trap some more goats. Because that's his job. He's trained, they call him a Judas goat. Do you know how many Judas goats we got in the Negro community? It's flooded with Judas goats. Now, you're going to try to do good. You got to study Boss Man. You got to study systems, procedures, organizational behavior, and you got to study the history of the Judas goat Negro mentality in your community. You got to study it. You got to be serious. You cannot get lucky. The white man does not allow luck. If you have a luck in 68, they're going to get you in 69. If you have luck in 68, 69, you go on in 70 because you're dealing with luck, right? You're dealing with luck. And the boss man, just like artillery, he fire over there, and then what does he do? He fine-tune it. It's a little too high. Bring it down a little. Bring it to the left. And after the third shot of his artillery, he can blast you to pieces, right? That means fine-tuning. That means you are not going to channel your behavior so that he can beat you. It don't have to be orthodox. In fact, it must be unorthodox. It must be above and beyond his ability to perceive what's going on. Okay, so we have been standing up on your behalf for 30 years. In the Carter administration, if y'all can remember that back, Reagan, Bush 1, Clinton, Bush 2, and now Obama. So this is 10 years old at least. And old Judas Goat himself. We still here, happy, healthy, independent. Now you got to think about it. Where do you find anybody that's Muslim and African American opening their mouth about anything in the United States? You don't see it, right? It's not happening. Now here we are. Look here. I can't read them all. This is an open letter to the D.C. police. Down here we say, Abdul Alim Musa, leader of Masjid al-Islam, advised the FBI and the D.C. police to repent of your criminal and antisocial, anti-societal building behavior. Stop trying to set up by filling our masjid with snitches, agent provocateurs, and informers. So we tell them. We believe in the nonviolent transformation of our society. Nonviolent transformation. Right? That's the same thing Dr. King talked about. And we believe in that. Nonviolent transformation. We don't believe there's going to be a guerrilla warfare because you can't hide nowhere. Right? You got if you go to the guerrilla army, you got to hide in the woods, hide in the houses. And if you hide in one Negro's house, the other Negro going to tell the police, there's a nigger right there. And you ought to hear what he's saying, boss. Because they might give him a package of chewing gum, you know, maybe some lifesavers or something. And that boy going to tell on you. It is just the way it is now. We didn't raise ourselves, they raised us. And they put in us every destructive cultural habit that you can put in a people. So if anything happened in our neighborhood, we will jump up and shoot and kill each other. But if boss man do it to us, we'll just kill each other more. I used to look out that window sometime and the police pull up, them Negroes right across the street would throw their guns under them bushes and all of that. When the police come, you got a gun, what are you going to do? Throw it under the bush. Because they are afraid of the authority, excuse me for saying this, of the white man. Or anybody that wears the uniform of the white. They fear, they tremble, they shake. They don't do nothing about it. The toughest Negro ain't even thinking about. And D.C. Negroes are not that scarified. D.C. Negroes in the federal penitentiary, you know, we was in California then. And when I decided to come to D.C., all the people who was in prison with or knew about, they said, you going to D.C.? Because see, all the federal prisoners from D.C., all the prisoners from D.C. was in federal prisons. And in federal prisons, that was different from people in county jails and state prisons. State prisons, just low quality thinkers. But federal prison were all gang leaders or, you know, you have sophisticated stuff. Big checks and stealing millions and billions of dollars. Not liquor store robbers and stuff like that. And the D.C., anyway, the D.C. Negroes, do you know, let me tell you something. You think I'm lying? I have been here 3 years now. Do you know what I have not seen? Only one Negro that I knew in the federal system, and that was one of the brothers over at Masjid. He used to be the imam at Leavenworth, or at that time the minister. We was in transition. Brother Majid, he passed away. He's the only one that I saw, I'd asked, from D.C. I'd be walking up and down the street and driving everywhere. I ain't seen Chicken Red or none of them Negroes. In Cadillac, they killed him before I even got here almost. I mean, and I knew everybody from D.C. Because if you could fight pretty good, D.C. people, you know, kind of lax you. And I've been here all this time. You know, if you was in the penitentiary, how many people would you see if you've been here that long? Hey, man, what's going on? That means, hey, I don't know what it means. I mean, it means that they got a lock on D.C. and they done did, I did see a few when I used to go over to Lorton years ago and visit. And in fact, I saw a brother yesterday. He said, Imam Musa, you remember you used to come down to Lorton to see us? I said, yeah. And they had 6 cell blocks. 7 was the one they had people that worked in the little kitchen, stuff like that. The rest of them, and I told him, I said, yeah, man, when I used to go down there, when I would come back, I would be depressed because they had 6 cell blocks and they all had wire on them, and they had, hey man, it was something out of the Dante's Inferno. They would set, you could have I talking to a brother, he was watching one of the TVs out there, you couldn't see it, it had a little tinfoil on it, you know what I mean? So I said, oh, how much time you got? Well, I got 10 years left. And I said, man. And I talked to the brothers, how much time you had? A brother I just saw the other day, he had 30 years or something like that. They would spend 30 years out in that shithole. They would spend 30 years down there. It's not inhumane, it's something, no classes. Well, you can come out and say, I got 30 years, hey, I'll learn carpentry. You ain't got none of that. They didn't have none of that. And guess what? All the police, except for 2 guys that was Pakistanis, 2 of the guards. If y'all been down there, you might remember them. Everybody else was Negroes. All the guards was colored. I said, man, this D.C. is a trip. You know, I say, man, because, you know, at least you from somewhere else and you see, well, it's not a whole city at that time of black people and the whole penitentiary is black and everybody rolling the white man's program. Good God Almighty. That was traumatic for somebody from California. Anyway, let me speed on up. Because it's always a way to defeat a system. You have to figure out what ingredients can you cook up, what ingredients can you assemble, right, to challenge the system that's breaking you and your people down. And then usually, in some cases, in our case, I put it this way. When we went overseas, the first thing we realized that, and we lived in Africa, that the thing that we didn't have was time. We didn't have time. Everybody else with colonialism, post-colonial, they had time. You see how long it took for South Africa to get liberated? It just got liberated the other day. Now they're in worse shape, but we don't want to go into that. All the people had time. If you looked at the Chinese, they formed the Communist Party in China maybe in 1921. They had a long march in 1934 and 35. They had the common war against the Japanese and what have you during the 40s, late 30s, and the 40s, Japanese surrender in 45. Then they have the internal struggle against each other for 4 years, and finally in 1949, they got their freedom. Okay, what does that mean? It means they had time. They had time to challenge their system, face defeats. Like Chairman Mao said, if you lose 90% of your troops, you have not lost, right? We didn't have time like Cuba or other places. We didn't have time. We just didn't have time. It happened too fast. Civil rights, 61, 62, civil rights, not civil rights, but what was in buses, they was freedom rides, 61, 62. 63, March on Washington. 64, some rebellion in New York. 65, all hell break loose. The Watts Rebellion, they call it in the news, the Watts Riot. And that was a rebellion. You think I'm jiving? Turn on your TV. Or just look at your phone. Dial up Watts Riot. You see the long distance pictures, it was burning. It looked like Berlin in World War II. I'm telling you, that's the way it looked. 66, 67, Detroit. They run out the police. They run out the National Guard. They sent in the, what's that? 82nd Airborne Division. They cracked military to take over Detroit, your city right here in the United States. Negroes then took over the city. They didn't run the police out. They didn't run the National Guard out. Don't say we didn't have no backbone or we didn't have no courage, right? We didn't have time. Hell, the thing was over in 5 years. 65, by 70, it's all over. Everybody didn't surrender. The thing is all over. 5 years. Nobody had no time to develop strategies, to develop how we're going to camouflage ourselves. How can we demobilize in cities and pretend we're not revolutionaries? How can we put on three-piece suits and go to work and be revolutionary? You know, right? They didn't have time. They didn't give them time. Because all during the late 60s, they was raiding all the offices. They was killing everybody. You've seen the movies. It's killing the Panthers every day. By 68, I showed you what I did. Well, I don't have it with me, but that Black Panther outfit, stingy brim hat, black leather coat, and, you know, either gray pants or black pants. I took that over. Y'all see how sharp I was, the white suit and all that. That's a disguise. I made a decision. I said, all of those homeboys of mine, they killing every one of them Negroes. They killing them like dogs. I said, I'm taking those off. And I'm going to play like a nigga that they like. I bought 7, 8 Cadillacs. I don't know what it was. I had the money all the time. But what did they think? As long as that nigga is doing that, looking like a clown or a buffoon and wasting his money. I wasn't wasting the money. That was show. Buying all them cars and all that stuff. That wasn't going to free nobody, but it keep the police off of you long enough to get something done. When they figured it out, they rolled on me. They said, this nigga got to go. All the setups and everything. At least they just set me up at customs. They ain't set me up. They didn't blow the brother away. I guess they didn't have enough wherewithal. I didn't have no office, Panther office. I didn't have, not that they didn't beat Negroes upside the head and stuff like that and get set up with dope. But it's okay. You keep that boss man. When we say, look, the boss man got the police, boss man got the courts, boss man got the Army, the Navy, Marines, and he's still cheating. I said, man, I ain't got a chance. That's why I left the country. I did a regular add up. And then the add up goes like this. Well, in the federal prisons, the courts, how many Negroes win in the federal court, especially on your charges? And I looked it up. I said, well, 3% of the people win their cases in federal courts, like us, 3%. That means if 100 people walk through that door, 97 of them going to get their head busted wide open, right, by the system. And I was just reasonable. I said, 97 niggas, 100 niggas walking through that door. So that's bad math. I don't like that. Right? I got to be a lucky Negro, especially if your name is at the top of the list. I got to be lucky as you can get out. In other words, I didn't just start this rational prolonged, thought-provoking thing. We're not here as an accident. We're here because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed favor on us and enhanced our ability to survive. Because what we came up with after Africa and everything is protracted struggle. You've got to be there a long time, right? You got to be there. And in this part of the struggle, just imagine, it's over 40 years. That's why people hear about some little thing happen a few months back, it ain't nothing, right? We've been here 40 years, and we got just to be here means something. And I'll get into that in a minute. That means you have time to struggle against your enemy. You got a chance to study its weaknesses, right? And you have time to gain stature and stability. I'm going to speed up here in a minute. But here's what we tell, this is D.C. police. Y'all probably remember that. Okay, we believe in nonviolent transformation of our society. That is evolution over revolution. You police ought to get on the right side of history for a change. If you want to talk to me, just come on by. Don't pick on defenseless sisters. Now, the sisters, they was police sisters, but they was pretending to be teachers here. Both of them was police. So they frame up like they getting harassed by the police down there. And everybody knows that when you get in trouble, don't call me, because I don't get along with the police. But I go down there anyway. And anyway, I talks to them pretty tough, and they put me in jail. They let the sisters go. The sisters was bait. But it's okay, no big deal. Don't pick on defenseless sisters. In simple terms, don't act like punk-ass FBI. Be men. If you're going to act like girls, then get a legal sex change along with hormonal therapy. Now, this is just talking to the police. Now, the standard Negro don't talk to the police and the FBI like that, do they? Tell the truth. Especially putting it in print. I would go so far as to say you ain't seen nothing like that. This just, and if it was, it wasn't there too long. Try to do some good for society before it's too late. Remember that the Titanic, the USA, was already hit a global iceberg. Try to rescue as many lives and souls as possible before it goes down. And also save yourselves in the meantime by following our sincere recommendations. P.S. A final message to the D.C. police and FBI. If you want to play psychological war games, you had better mess with someone your own size, experience, because for sure, Imam Musa is way out of your league. Now, I'm just talking trash to the police, but it happens to be true. What's the proof? Here we are right now. And ain't nobody here with us. You can't go get the people up in New York. You can't go get none of them to even mention anything like this. While the system is destroying our people in Iraq, destroying our people in Afghanistan, destroying our people in Yemen with the Saudis, and all the fitna around the world, whether it's Daesh or any of those people, all of those people are United States agents. And the U.S. ain't got no long-range stickability. Look at them trying to beg and get out of Afghanistan. Please let me out of here. And every time they get close to something, the people do something to keep them there longer. They got them. They got them, just like going fishing or something. When you hook something, you can tell, isn't that right? Because you pull it a little, and the thing, you get a response. Now I'm going to tell you, It sounds like we're talking trash here, and we ain't did this in months. But we got the white man on the line. Why? We can tell. Pull it a little. He make a little move. And we could tell who we got on the line by the way he moved. If he moved this way, he moved that way, we know who we got on the line. Some experience. We've been doing this a long time. I didn't mean to talk about this today, but I come to the conclusion that we haven't talked about this in quite a while, and we got to get busy. We'll finish up in a few minutes. Victory of Islam over the Shah, victory of Masjid al-Islam over the combined forces of Zionism. And right here we say, in spite of Steve Emerson, Sean Hannity, Daniel Pipes, the NSA, FBI, CIA, Homeland Security, and a host of other clowns, Masjid al-Islam in East Oakland is the only independent masjid that stands for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against American Zionism. And this is what we're going to do. Imam Musa will, inshallah, share case study after case study on how to practice psychological guerrilla warfare. In other words, all the stuff I'm telling you is textbook stuff that we have studied, that we have implemented right here. And nobody else talks like this, and nobody else has done this. Why? We looked at our history, and they knock us over every time they feel like it. Because nobody has approached them on their strong side. This is our strong side. Talking trash. Negroes can talk trash. Psychological guerrilla warfare. We got it everywhere, and we don't even know it. I'll give you an example. 57, when I first went to Youth Authority, we found that if you talk to little white boys who's right next to you, and you talked about their mama, they would discombobulate. You're talking about my mommy. And that's what we did. That was playing the dozens, right? Now, everybody loved their mother, so automatically, being Negroes, that's who we play the dozens about. Man, your mama this, your mama wear croaker sack drawers and high heel tennis shoes. High heel tennis shoes wasn't in style then. And all of that stuff, right? The dozens. So what are we going to come up with? What are we going to fight white man with? White man gets discombobulated when you deal with those issues. We have to find out as adults, as controllers of the society, what are the dozens for him now? And that's what we do. You see, it's simple, right? Use what Allah gave you. You could talk about my mama all day. Of course I love my mother a whole lot. We all did. But you couldn't get mad. If you got mad, you lost, right? If I talked about your mother and you got mad, you lost. You lost this game. You can't start, you talking about my mama. You can't do that, right? Not amongst us. You just got to come back with something else. But Europeans, it's simple. It's so simple, it's laughable. He can't handle that. Not my generation. All right, let me move on. Imam Musa will, inshallah, share case study after case study on how to practice psychological guerrilla warfare. That's what we're going to teach. This is from 2014. That's 7 years ago. College of Strategic and Islamic Studies will give you hands-on experience on how to make U.S. agents and collaborators expose themselves. This is me being taken out of my shit. Forget about the tummy. I'm on a little thing right now, so it's just going away. Don't worry. But here's Mukhtar Ali Mujahid. He's the snitch, and he's telling the police he can't do it because we got all the paperwork is in our masjid in Oakland. It's in our name. You can see the sign right there. But I'm going to jail. This is about the 6th or 7th time. I'm going to jail. I say, it's fine. It's great. Because we got them on the line. They ain't got us. They say there's a time limit you should have filed before. They've stolen our money. Go ahead. You can't do that. What they do in Oakland, they can't do it. So we say, great, we got y'all going. More the better. Learn how Masjid al-Islam has exposed the whole Zionist American network in the public sphere. Never has so few done so much for so many without support. We don't have no support, but we're not asking for no support. From those guys out there, Dar al-Hijra and them places, they got rules and they, Brother Tufel and I was out there, they got rules that you can't give to certain people like us in their bylaws. And unless you us, you wouldn't notice it. But anyway, and they're out there afraid. They done locked up, I don't know how many, this is way back. And one of their greatest personalities out there showed up in the newspaper. He says they're afraid. Does anybody remember the what did they call that newspaper? Muslim Link. Yeah. Great articles. And our brother is Palestinian. They said, you got to tell on all the Palestinians, you got to do this. He said, I ain't doing nothing. And they just came down on him. And the brothers didn't help. You know where you'd see his wife? Sitting there on certain nights selling cookies or something. Now, what did we tell them to do? Is every time they put somebody in jail, you buy the wife and the family a 4 or 5 bedroom house and a brand new Benz, and have the kids coming to Jum'ah hanging all out the sunroof, right? Looking good. So that way, everybody that's got a husband and they cowardly, and you got them people coming to Jum'ah, right, looking good, the wife will be telling their husband, you got to speak up about this oppression, right? Because she's looking at it like, shoot, we're going to get us a Benz, a new house, paid for, right? But what about if the lady's driving an old Toyota, the smoking, out there at Dar al-Hijra? She's sitting there selling cookies. What is the other wives going to say? I don't want my husband. That don't look good. They're not thinking about Jannah. They're not thinking about paradise, right? They're not thinking about Inna Allaha yuhibbul ladina yukatiluna fi sabilihi saffan ka'annahum banyun marsusum. Allah loves those who fight in his cause like a what? A solid cemented structure. They're not praying about that. They're thinking about themselves and how life is going to be. He's going to be in prison, and they're going to be out there starving to death. That's why they hit him so hard, because they didn't respond properly. They didn't want to take our advice. That's why they're getting beat upside the head. That's why you don't hear nothing from nobody. You do not hear, let me say it again, nothing. There's millions of Muslims in America, and you don't hear nothing from none of them but us. So we got a special job. And guess what? When we do programs like, I don't want to take too long, but I'm going to leave in a minute, how to punk the FBI, right? Stuff like that. That was just to test the system. And guess what? The system didn't do nothing. I mean, on the surface, you can forget about what they're going to do in the background, but you have to be able to take it and you make other people feel like it's possible to do something. Okay, we're going to speed up. Special session on design fitna. What it is and how it works. Designed fitna. Design fitna is when you design your own fitna. Step one, you do this. Why? Because you have a pretty good idea what they're going to do in response to what you did. You didn't study them. Then you do step 3. Then they have step 4. You've already analyzed what they're going to do, and you see whether you're doing right. Design fitna is when you design your own fitna. This is designed fitna. And we can win whenever we get ready. Or if we don't, we can't lose because we got a wonderful story. How the Oakland police did this, how the Oakland police did that. How. It's all recorded and it's all hooked up. And of course they try to steal it. They try to steal your information there, and they can't do it because we copied everything over and over and over again. In other words, I'm not bragging, but I'm telling you, we know what we're doing, and we're here now at 76 years old, and we've been tussling face to face with the white man. After losing the first round in the 1960s and 70s, early part, and the tussle getting black eyes during the 80s, by the 90s, I'm sorry. We leveled off with Boss Man, and in the last years, we just like Muhammad Ali, sting like a butterfly and float like a bee. We have not lost nothing. We didn't trick that fool. That's why white man on the line. Listen, think about it. David using what he used to, 5 smooth stones, right? From the brook. Hitting him where? Bam, right in the head. What does that do? He discombobulated, he disorganized. Who did it? You did it. You took off armor. You're not going to fight no boy got atomic bombs and you're going to go down there with a .38 pistol, right? Absolutely not. What's his weak points? Psychologically is weak. Where is he losing around the world? Now, everywhere. Think about it. Psychologically and physically. This is not the America we knew, right? Black Lives Matter. Of course, they're all police, but the police still got his knee on the brothers for all that time. And he dies in the public. He dies in the public. Yeah. Him and everybody else that they shoot. The little boy is 12 years old. Can you imagine? The police just drive up and open their own. Are we human or not? It's a question. And everybody in the world, that's America the Great? And it's treating its citizens like that? And you know who the most liked people in America are around the world? The Negro, yes, sir. Okay, find out what music do people like. When I was in Colombia, you can imagine what I was doing in Colombia. I used to go to the gym every morning. So the people said, sing me a song. Of course, that's what niggas do, right? This is like 72. Yeah, 72. I didn't tell them, sucker, I'm here to smuggle cocaine. That's what you mean, sing your song. But that's what they thought. The niggas could sing and that they did that stuff. They wasn't being mean. They was just, hey, do a little jig or something. I told them, y'all, it's crazy. What's wrong with you? You stupid. Then I was thinking, I said, they didn't taught them that. So I leave, shake hands. You know what they said? You didn't do it right. So what you talking about? Shaft. They didn't do it. You know, niggas via all that stuff. I said, I don't know that stuff. I don't know all of that. You got to have the key combinations, niggas doing this, that. I said, I don't know how to do all that old stuff. I'm a gangster. This is what I was thinking. Sucker, I'm a gangster. I don't sing and do all that stuff. There's some niggas do that, but I don't do that. All I do is sit and count money, smuggle cocaine, that's what I do, right? I'm not a singer. But I could have sang for them because they wouldn't know whether it was good or bad. This is a nigga doing it. People love you all over the world and you don't know it. They don't love the white man. Well, they do still, some of them. If you're white, you're all right. That's still going on in the world. If you're yellow, you're mellow. If you're brown, stick around. If you're black, no. If you're black, little kids used to follow me down the street. Right? Up till a few weeks ago, if I was in Pakistan, you know what the kids would do? Recently, they would follow me down the street. Hey, you know what they thought I was? A footballer. The footballer, because all those blacks in the islands, right? The blacks in the islands, they good at cricket, the white folks games, and that football, kicking the ball, right? So the kids would follow me, like when I was in South America, I'd throw my hands up, boom, boom, this. I'd pretend to be a boxer. I'd just be pretending. I wasn't going to be no boxer, get beat all up, snapped upside the head. Now I'd help my friends who was boxers rent big places, promote boxing. But I'm going to get in there just to be, getting beat all up for what? Even if you win, you still beat up, right? Tell the truth. Eyes all puffed up. I said, I don't do that. Say, I'm a supporter of struggle. I'm not that type of, you know what I mean, combat with gloves, them little old tiny gloves, beating everybody upside the head. Anyway, I'm going to speed up. But don't worry, sometimes it's okay to take a little time. We're in a very critical condition right now. I'm going to try to wrap it up. The more victories Masjid al-Islam attains against the Zionist institutions, the angrier its former administrators become. Why? Number 6, the pro-Negro Zionist attack Imam Musa. Why? A special motivational session. Why not be courageous and stand for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his messenger? And number 8, an investigation into the enemy's perspective. If you can't attack the truth, attack the one bringing the truth. Nobody can say we did anything wrong, but you don't, even in good times, the masjid is empty like it is now. It's not empty, but you go to other masjid, they're full of people. You know why they're full of people? Because everybody know that's a safe haven. You can go over there and, right? You ain't getting no trouble because they ain't going to give you no trouble over there. But if you go to Masjid al-Islam, you're going to hear this all the time. Why? Because we know what our mission is. Okay, let me just do 1 or 2 more. Okay, let's see what it says here. And remember, whatever you are given now is but for the passing enjoyment of this world, of life of this world. Whereas, which is with Allah, is far better and more enduring. Shall be given to all who attain to faith and in their sustainer place their trust, and who shun the more heinous sins and abominations. That's it's in hadith. It's called kabair. It's a whole list of things that are big sins. Kabair. And who, whenever they are moved to anger, readily forgive, and who respond to the call of their sustainer and are constant in prayer, and whose rule in all matters of common concern is consultation amongst themselves. In Arabic, it's called amruhu shura bainahum. They conduct their affairs by mutual consultation. Amruhu shura bainahum. And who spend on others out of what we provide for them as sustenance. And who, whenever tyranny afflicts them defend themselves whenever they're afflicted. They defend themselves by tyranny, of course. This is one of the keys, and I got 4 or 5 stars. You can see all them stars right by the last one. But remember that an attempt at requiting evil may too become an evil. That means be careful, because what you're doing to protect yourself, if you go overboard, you may go overboard like they doing. You may become like them. So think all the time, what am I doing? How am I doing? Why am I doing? Think of what you're doing. Constantly reminding yourself, constantly checking your behavior with Quran, Sunnah, and history, and what you have realized that may be good for you. Right? But always use the criteria of Quran and Hadith. The Quran gives you certain leeway you can have. And so does the Hadith. And history is the one that put it in perspective. Right? And it shows you many of the ways that religion have been used to solve problems. You have all of that to select from. And if you can't find the perfect selection in all of that, you can associate that with your own experience, our experience. That's what we've done here. Psychological guerrilla warfare is 100% Negro. 100% Negro. That's why it works on Boss Man. And all Boss Man can do is get mad, and the madder he gets, the more he shows his behind. All I got to be able to do is put up with going to jail. Going to jail is in your own place is easier than getting shot in the head. See what I mean? Or killed by any means that they can think of. The white man runs this country. You got to have your processes attuned to what you can expose and get away with at the same time. So all our stuff is put in a fun making. Oh, you cracker, you just a bunch of sissies. Remember the white man is a sissy, the FBI sissies, all of that? And then here come the police to get rid of you. We'll fix you, nigga. Oh, boss man, you wouldn't hurt old Musa. Shoot, I was just jiving with y'all, man. Y'all gonna get mad, I'm just jiving. Right? That's what we do with boss man. Why? You got him on the line. You can tell, okay, boss man is getting mad now. Oh, boss man, good God Almighty, man. You just, and then he goes back to sleep. 3 or 4 months later, here you go, slap it upside. Wake up, boss man. Sitting over there hiding like a damn fool, right? Talking crazy out the side of your mouth. What's wrong with you? Then he puts up with that, and then he says, I fixed that nigga. Or someone in the groups is talking, and you been around them so long, you could tell their behavior amongst the police, which are plenty. Oh, they getting a little funny acting. They done got quiet all of a sudden. That means, hey man, it's all over for you. So you see me come up here, yeah. Boss man, we have hope for boss man. Boss man, last 3 weeks he been good. Yes, so we're gonna have this kind of struggle. And boss man goes back and rests for a while. It's a long range. We've been doing it for over 40 years. We've been doing it consciously. You think we're up here just playing around? You can be playing, listening, but we're not playing around. And anybody been here over a year or 5 years or 10 or 20 years know the patterns, right? You can study the patterns. Oh, we having a class, and I'll close in a minute. We have a tattletale lady. So we say, oh, I would just love for that tattletale lady to, da-da-da-da. Right, what happened in the class? The phone ring. Who is it? The tattletale lady. Tell the truth. It's the tattletale lady, right? Tell the truth. It's the tattletale lady, right? we used to call her Halle Berry, but it's the Tattletale Lady. Does anybody remember that? They ring, the phone ring. I'm ready to go to California. I'm sorry I didn't go before. Now they're ready to go to California. It's the Tattletale Lady. And the people might think one person met me at the door because I was skipping out the door. He said, boy, you was waiting on that call. I said, yeah, it's a Tattletale Lady. He thought maybe you're going to get married, do such and such. She's Tattletale. Been a tattletale all the time. It's now going up on 40. Can you imagine somebody that tell for 40 years? I think niggas' lips will roll up inside out after they told that much. Some ears will get funny. Okay, I see some, you can't get tired of listening to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close with one or two more statements. Simple statement. Great recovery. A setback ain't nothing but a setup for a comeback. Now the final, what's his name? Not Victor Jolly. Somebody, he's from D.C. This is our type of language. A setup ain't nothing, a setback ain't nothing but a setup for a comeback. So he put the final words on this, so we didn't believe in this all our life. So a setup, which we encounter all the time, is nothing, a setback is nothing but a setup for a comeback. My first comeback was in 1972, New Year's Day. I said, I'm going back to the world, because I just went to Mexico, then to South America. I said, if they want to put me in jail for dope dealing, I'm going to make sure they get a chance. So I went to South America, and I couldn't deal heroin because it's killing all the Negroes. But cocaine, now remember, cocaine is not crack. Cocaine hydrochloride, only the rich people in those days was using blow. So that was a step up. That was part of liberation. We would use the money, give it to the Negroes in exile. We'll raise an army and we'll come back and take over America. That was kind of a vision till I found out I was the only one thinking like that. Nobody want to come back to America. Well, I mean, to fight. The white man, I must have been the only one. But if you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you stick to it, only if I had a wish, if I would wish that everybody here could feel the way I do about the struggle. You can probably tell the way I'm talking that it's like a big, it's fun. Especially it's fun when we done already got longevity. You know what I mean? We don't be greedy like we got to have more. Although I say, I think we're going to have 100 years. That means I got 25 more years or 24. We don't have to have that. We got this far. We're grateful for what we got. We're grateful for the lectures and the talks and to be able to teach our people. If they want to know how to box with Boss Man, they can. And if we stay around up until we're 100 years old, which we might, you never know. It don't make no difference to me. But while we was here, we did our part. All of these lectures, all of this, we did our part. That's what we wanted to do. We wanted to show how niggas could have a chance. They didn't have a chance in the 60s and 70s. No chance. They rolled right out and blew the Negro away. And that was it. Case closed. So I had a chance to watch that. I said, now what are we going to have all this last 40-something years and 7 or 8 years just wandering around the world to figure out what we're going to do? Well, Allah, we seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief. We seek thy refuge from lack of strength and laziness. We seek thy refuge from cowardice and niggardliness. We seek thy refuge from being overpowered by debt and the oppression of men. O Allah, suffice us with what is lawful, keep from us what is prohibited. With thy grace, make us free from want of what is besides it. Ameen. Iqamati salat.